History is filled with bold battles and wild wars, but some conflicts stand out for their sheer absurdity, like the 3-year-long Lobster War, where there were arguments over if lobsters walked or swam, because the land under the sea belonged to one country, but the sea to another. So who did the lobsters belong to? Or the War of Stray Dogs, where a cannon's antics almost sparked the Balkan crisis. Join us as we explore the final 7 of the weirdest wars that prove truth is indeed stranger than fiction, where mix-ups, small complaints and downright comical events started conflicts that left their mark on history. So without further ado, coming in at the weird war number 7, we have the Great Emu War. Imagine this, it's 1932, Australia, just having recovered from turmoil of World War I, found itself facing an unexpected enemy, emus. Yes, you heard that right, emus, or as the Aussies say, emus. These large, flightless birds were wreaking havoc on Western Australia's wheat fields, leading farmers to plead for government's help. Enter Major GPW Meredith of Royal Australian Artillery and his band of soldiers armed to the beak with machine guns. Their mission? To wage war on the emu population. On paper, it sounded like an easy task, but the emus, it turned out, were more than just overgrown chickens. They were crafty and surprisingly swift. The campaign began in November 1932, and the emus quickly proved to be impressive opponents. The first battle saw the soldiers unleashing a hail of bullets, only to watch confused as the emus scatter in all directions, dodging almost every shot. The machine guns jammed, and the emus, unharmed and perhaps a little amused, swiftly continued their damage. Despite several fights, the emus always outsmarted the military. They moved in small agile groups, making them difficult targets. After weeks of useless efforts and only a few hundred emus down out of a roughly 20,000, the operation was called off, deemed a feathery failure. The Great Emu War ended with the emus proving that sometimes nature's nightmares can outwit human firepower. The whole episode stands as a testament to the unpredictable nature of history, where even a battle against birds can leave the army not amused. Welcome back to our channel, where we make history fun with a little comedy thrown in just for the laughs. These bizarre standoffs show that even the smallest squabbles can grow into international disputes. So strapped to carry on our whirlwind tour across the continents. At the Weird War number 6, proving our passion for pets, we have the War of the Stray Dogs. In 1925, a border dispute between Greece and Bulgaria exploded into the absurdly named War of the Stray Dogs. It all started when a Greek soldier chased his loose dog across the Bulgarian border and was shot. Greece, outraged by dog on offense, declared war and sent troops to Bulgaria. The League of Nations got involved, diplomatically barking at both sides to cool it. The conflict ended quickly, with Greece paying to say sorry but keeping their pride intact. This short-lived spat over a stray pooch highlighted how even the smallest of misunderstandings can lead to international hilarity and diplomatic tail-chasing. As we enter the top 5, we have the weird war called the War of the Golden Stool. This was also known as the Yasantiwa War in the 1900s and is a tale of imperial pride and royal throne like no other. Imagine British colonial officers, eyes gleaming with conquest, deciding they want to sit on the throne, specifically the sacred golden stool of the Ashanti people from the present-day Ghana. Little did they know, this wasn't just any stool, it was the symbol of the Ashanti's nation's soul and pride. The British governor, Sir Frederick Hudson, demanded to sit on the golden stool, assuming it was just another trophy to claim. The Ashanti, however, were not amused. Queen Mother Yasantiwa, embodying the spirit of defiance, rallied her people with a rousing speech that essentially said, "Over our dead body you will sit on that sacred stool." Thus, the stage was set for one of the most unusual battles in the colonial history. Armed with rifles, spears, and sheer determination, the Ashanti warriors launched a fierce resistance against the British forces. The conflict saw daring ambushes, relentless sieges, and of course, the British scrambling in confusion over their miscalculated cultural foxpass. Despite their advanced weaponry, the British struggled to stop the Ashanti for several months. In the end, the British managed to capture Yasantiwa and exile her, but they never found the elusive golden stool. The Ashanti had hidden it well, keeping their sacred symbol safe from the foreign behinds, leaving the British like, The War of the Golden Stool remains a story of clash of cultures and the hilarity that can ensue when one side completely misunderstands the other's traditions and values. It's a golden chapter in history that proves that sometimes you just don't need a stool sample. In at Weird War number 4, we have the Football War. Now, we all know fans can get a bit carried away with the beautiful game, But in 1969, El Salvador and Honduras kicked off one of the most bizarre conflicts in history, known as the Football War. A trio of fiercely contested World Cup qualifier matches between these neighboring countries sparked an actual war. The tension started with fans throwing punches, but escalated when El Salvador won the decisive game 3-2 in the extra time, leading to a full-scale riots. The rivalry on the pitch spilled over into politics, with both nations already angry over issues like immigration and land disputes. The final whistle blew, but instead of packing up their boots, El Salvador launched a military offensive against Honduras. This conflict lasted of a grand total of 100 hours, proving that even a brief war can pack a punch if enough soccer fans are involved. The fighting saw El Salvador's forces advancing swiftly, capturing key territories, while Honduras scrambled to defend its turf. International referees mediators stepped in with the Organization of American States calling for a ceasefire. After 4 days of aerial dogfights, ground skirmishes, and a surprising lack of red cards, the varying nation agreed to ceasefire on July 20th, 1969. Despite its brief duration, the football war left a lasting impact, with around 3,000 casualties and significant displacement of civilians. Peace talks eventually followed, but it was clear that the passion ignited by a simple game of football had exploded into a full-blown but short-lived war. This conflict serves as a humorous reminder that sometimes the most intense battles begin with a game-winning goal and end with diplomatic timeout. In the bronze medal position, we have the weird war number 3, the Cod Wars. In the chilly waters of North Atlantic, the Cod Wars were a series of fishy face-offs between Iceland and the UK from the 1950s and the 1970s. The heart of the conflict? Iceland wanted to extend its fishing territory while the British just wanted to keep calm and carry on fishing. Icelandic patrol boats and British trawlers played a high seas game of cat and mouse, with people's nets getting snipped and tempers getting short. Despite sounding like a seafood brawl, the Cod Wars saw no fatalities, just a lot of floundering and flustered sailors. Iceland, with its cunning strategy of boat bumping and net cutting, eventually outmaneuvered the British, who decided cod wasn't worth the constant attacks. By the end, Iceland had expanded its fishing zone, and Britain had a new appreciation for maritime diplomacy. Taking the silver medal, our second weirdest war is the War of the Two Johns, or the War of the Two Jeans. Jean as in the name, not Jean or Jean. Or Jean. This is the ultimate medieval catfight set in 14th century France. On one side, you had Jean of Flanders, a fierce warrior nicknamed Fiery Joanna, determined to secure the Duchy of Brittany for her son. On the other hand, Jeanne of Ponthieu, equally determined to claim the duchy for herself. Cue an epic showdown that was more soap opera than battlefield. Both Jeans pulled out all the stops. Sieges, small battles, and strategic marriages were the weapons of choice. The battlefield was littered with dramatic statements and backstabbing betrayals. Jeanne of Flanders even disguised herself to escape capture, while Jeanne of Ponthieu tried to woo allies with promises sweeter than medieval desserts. Ultimately, it was the Jeanne of Flanders who had the last laugh. She allied with England, while Ponthieu's side crumbled like a poorly made pastry. The Treaty of Gironde in 1365 finally ended this feud, securing Brittany for Jeanne of Flanders' son. This war proves that when it comes to medieval drama, it takes a genius to win. And if two Jeans is not enough for you, then what about our gold medal weirdest war? The War of the Three Sanchos. The War of the Three Sanchos in 1065 to 1073 was like a medieval sitcom, with three kings named Sancho fighting over the Iberian Peninsula. Sancho II of Castile, Sancho IV of Navarre, and Sancho Ramirez of Aragon all decided they couldn't share nicely. It all started when Sancho II, known for his less than charming diplomacy, decided he wanted more territory and set his sights on his cousin's lands. The three Sanchos clashed in a series of comedic yet fierce battles, each trying to out-Sancho the other one. The highlight was when Sancho II of Castile asked for help of his brother Alfonso VI, only to later imprison him when he became too powerful. Talk about sibling rivalry. Meanwhile, Sancho IV of Navarre and Sancho Ramirez of Aragon tried to defend their turf. But it was like a medieval game of musical thrones. Eventually, the Castilian Sancho had a short-lived victory, but was soon assassinated, presumably by someone tired of the Sancho madness. The surviving Sanchos, seeing the folly of their ways, made peace. The War of Three Sanchos is a classic tale of royal egos clashing in the most entertainingly petty ways, proving that even in the medieval era, having too many Sancho-defying people can be royal pain. The Sanchos ends our search through history's quirkiest confrontations and bizarre battles. From dogs and emus to pastries and buckets, it seems humanity can take the smallest thing and turn it into a cause for conflict. What do you think? Comment below which one was your favorite and how you would order them. And check out our channel to uncover more tales that blend humor, absurdity, and history in the most unexpected ways.